Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the OUSA Dota League Season 4. I'm your host, 49, the Mastercaster who talks a lot faster, and this is game number 2 of the best of 2 series between On the Goonsack playing against Dagon Club. Dagon Club were able to pull out a dominating victory off the back of the performance coming through from Bambi. Over as the offlane Broodmother pretty much was able to snowball under control. There wasn't really any checks in place to contain the Broodmother due to the fact they picked up the unfortunate support duo of the Silencer and the Crystal Maiden. Black Leader wasn't able to find any kind of farm, and Zeps in the mid lane got completely crushed by Yoshi's performance on the Queen of Pain. Dagon Club now going to be opening once again with the exact same two bans, the Bounty Hunter as well as the Lina. Both these heroes considered to be high priority picks just due to the fact that the Lina does give you a fair amount of flexibility as well as a dominating laning performance, and the Bounty Hunter just becomes an absolute nuisance. Very similar to the reason why some teams will choose to ban out Techies or the Broodmother. They just don't want to deal with the annoyance factor. On the Goonsack, choosing to go for the Lashrak as well as the Gyrocopter. This time Dagon Club had the first pick, so we'll expect something like a Tuskar to be picked up by Dagon Club fairly early on. Tuskar is considered to be a tier 1 hero due to the fact that he can be an offlane hero in the 3 position role, or he could also excel in a 4 position support role, especially due to the fact that he's able to disrupt skirmishes early on. Makes it very difficult for the opposing team to fight into you, especially since he also provides you a lot of free initiation coming through from the snowball. So Dagon Club can also choose to go for a Dazzle first pick, which is a thing that a lot of teams like to do if they want to kind of hold off showing their draft. Especially as the first pick, you do generally want to pick up either a tier 1 hero, such as the Tuskar, or in this case choosing to go for the Wyvern fairly early on. Otherwise you want to hold on to your draft and go your drafting strategy and pick up a hero that's not really going to reveal much of your hand. So something like a Dazzle or Wyvern pickup fairly early on generally doesn't indicate what's the strategy you're aiming to go for. Drawback, of course, of picking up the Wyvern this early on is Wyvern doesn't really do much against a hero like a Skywrath Mage. You cold embrace someone and Skywrath gets a free Mystic Flare off, and so that is one of the ways to deal with the Winter Wyvern, as well as heroes like Lina. They could just simply burst people down when they cold embrace. In this scenario, that being said, since Lina has been banned out and the Skywrath Mage is generally considered to be quite a risky support pick, especially this early on, Winter Wyvern does do a fairly good job at providing a lot of zoning presence with the Arctic Burn as well as the burst potential coming through from the Splinter Blast, especially with the defensive capability coming through from the Cold Embrace. So one of the more difficult mechanical heroes to be able to play, but if you are able to get good Cold Embrace timings down, especially if you can find a fairly early Glimmer Cape, does provide you a massive amount of defensive capability. But on the Goonsack, after last game where they decided to go for 4 Protect 1, say, okay, screw it, let's go Angry, decided to pick up the Undying as well as the Earthshaker. So Undying most likely will be the offlane, going to be played by Donkey. Earthshaker, I believe it's actually Jesus that plays the Earthshaker. It's a fairly dominating performance coming through from him. So far, by opening with the Undying, On the Goonsack have revealed that they do intend to go for an early to mid-game centric draft and choose to close out the game as quickly as possible. The nice thing, of course, with picking up the Undying this early on is you do actually have the option of just picking up an ultra late game hero to complement the Undying, so that way Undying kind of pretty much shores up your defense for the early game, creates space, forces bad flights for the opposing team, while your safe lane farmer, whether that be a Phantom Lancer, a Deucer, or an Anti-Mage, is just able to get bigger and bigger, so it does give you that late game contingency. Dagon Club now choosing to pick up the Visage, so they go for the greedy support duo, the Wyvern and the Visage. Visage will be the 4 in this case, and Wyvern will be the 5. You generally want Wyvern to be the 4 just because she is a hero that does quite nicely with items as well as experience, but Visage of course is basically a core hero wrapped in the support's body. And so the Visage is going to be able to do a huge amount of work in applying pressure early on through the Grave Shield into the Soul Assumption. It provides you a massive amount of burst pickoff power, and as well as in the latter stage of the game with the Familiars. We actually even could be seeing some roles being switched around coming through from Dagon Club. I don't think Flash can play the Visage, and I don't know if NACL can either, so maybe they could decide to switch out Bambi, who's generally that offlane player, and have him play the Visage instead. So it will be interesting to see how they decide to play this. We do see the Drow Ranger ban immediately coming through from On the Goonsack. This is one of the advantages of picking up the Visage as the second pick, as opposed to the first pick, is right as you enter the second banning stage, you force the enemy team to waste one of their bans on the Drow Ranger just to get rid of that pocket strat. Even though it is a bit of a gimmicky strategy, it does provide you an absurd amount of slip pushing power. And so just for the sake of not having to worry about it, most teams will often waste a ban just banning out the Drow Ranger so they don't have to deal with that combination. And so as far as the draft is concerned, it does give you an advantage, forces them to use a ban inefficiently, in which case it enables a couple of other tier 1 heroes to slip past the net during the second banning stage. Dagon Club once again choosing to ban out the Phantom Lancer as well as the Silencer. Phantom Lancer is the most banned carry hero outside of the Gyrocopter. As far as the ODL4 is concerned, a lot of teams are afraid to go blow for blow with the Cancer Lancer, especially now that he's been reworked basically into a much more aggressive carry hero. On the Goonsack, choosing to ban out the Broodmother, they don't want to deal with Bambi's Brood once again. So Dagon Club, they might actually decide to switch things up Bambi, I believe he also does like to play the Nyx Assassin in the offlane as well as the Clockwork Goblin. So they do have plenty of options as far as the offlane is concerned. You can never ban out all the offlane heroes, very similar to trying to ban out all the carry heroes, and so you just ban out the ones that are most potent into your strategy. So on the Goonsack, this time weighing up the odds of deciding to commit for a mid pick, you generally want to go for your mid or your safe lane farmer as the last pickup, just to make sure that you don't really reveal too much away, especially since most mid heroes operate on a rock paper scissors sort of basis, so you want to make sure that you don't get counterpicked. So as far as on the Goonsack are concerned, they can actually decide to just pick up the second support, in which case not revealing too much of their strategy, like the way Dagon Club have chosen to do so. So with the Wyvern and the Visage, they do have a great amount of late game potential coming through from both their supports. Visage scales incredibly well, especially with the introduction of the Solar Crest. He basically just becomes another core hero, especially once he has access to familiars. He should be able to farm with the familiars as well as Visage. You've got a great deal of damage presence early on coming through from the Soul Assumption, and same thing goes for the Wyvern. Wyvern is always going to be relevant just because of the Cold Embrace and Winter's Curse. The Arctic Burn scales well into the game, and Splinter Blast, absolute worst case scenario, you can use it to just delay pushes by blowing up the creep wave before it gets close to the tower. So Wyvern's always going to be quite a powerful pick. The only drawback, of course, of both these supports is they are incredibly greedy EXP wise, and Dagon Club choose to go for Yoshi Shadow Fiend in the mid lane. On the Goonsack, because they've so far picked up the Earthshaker and Witch Doctor, this time they actually have the potential to rotate, and so the Shadow Fiend pickup can actually be punished this time around as far as on the Goonsack are concerned. Shaker and Witch Doctor, great heroes to deal with the Shadow Fiend. Fissure block him, or even if you don't land the Fissure block perfectly, Fissure to set up for the paralyzing cast, you can just start right-clicking them, especially with the mid also being to get a couple of free pot shots in. So on the Goonsack, now that they know there's a Shadow Fiend pickup, you kind of have two ways to approach the Shadow Fiend. You either say, okay, we'll match you greed for greed, in which case you pick up a hero that's able to flash farm just as efficiently as the Shadow Fiend, but isn't necessarily going to get bullied out of the lane. So for instance, a good example of that would be a hero like a Storm Spirit or a Zeus. These are heroes that won't necessarily be able to kill the Shadow Fiend or vice versa unless if either player makes a misstep, but on the same side, because both these heroes scale equally well into the latter stages of the game and are able to flash farm just as efficiently, you're basically just trading farmers saying, okay, that's fine. They decide to go for the Slark instead, so on the Goonsack, we'll be going for the Slark in the safe lane role. Slark is an excellent hero at punishing heroes such as the Visage as well as the Winter Wyvern. Not really able to do much against them. Wyvern at least can Cold Embrace, so it does give Dagon Club a couple of opportunities to counterplay against the Slark, but the Shadow Fiend doesn't really do anything against the Slark. Slark just runs in, has a Dark Pact to work with if Visage goes in for the Soul Assumption, and because they actually don't have any kind of CC power coming through from any of their heroes so far, they're entirely dependent on either the Visage Familiar drop or the Witness Curse coming through from the Wyvern, so the Slark pickup is going to be unpunished. So the Storm Spirit also is quite a powerful option as far as on the Goonsack are concerned, but Dagon Club decides to immediately retaliate with the Clinkz, and the Clinkz Visage combination is something that Evil Genius was able to utilize to great effect at the TI5 Grand Finals, due to the fact that Clinkz, he's a surprisingly underrated carry hero. He's a very unusual carry hero in the sense that he doesn't actually need any damage items early on. Clinkz has so much free damage built in with Strafe as well as Searing Arrow. All you really have to do to facilitate the Clinkz is make sure that you cover his mana issue, so picking up a Soul Ring generally fulfills that need, and then pick up some kind of utility-based item. So against blinking heroes, you want an Orchid ASAP. In some cases, you even just go for the Desolator as early as possible, especially with the Desolator's buffs that now cost less gold to provide you a similar effect, the same amount of negative armor, just slightly less damage. So Clinkz is an absolute monster dealing with heroes like Slark. If Slark doesn't jump to Clinkz, and Clinkz can just right-click down Slark and at least force him to pop a Shadow Dance a lot earlier than you expect. Clinkz is also able to pick off both the Earthshaker as well as the Witch Doctor with impunity, and does give you a great way to deal with the Tombstone coming through from the Undying. So on the Goonsack, so far their entire draft has been compromised by the Clinkz pickup, especially because you often have to factor in the fact that Visage will go for the Solar Crest as soon as possible, and Shadow Fiend with a Necromastery already provides you a huge amount of negative armor. So Dagon Club do realize that one of the weaknesses of the draft is they can decide to pick up the Storm Spirit, in which case the Shadow Fiend is going to be having a difficult time. Wyvern and the Visage can't actually do anything to Storm Spirit. They don't have any form of hard lockdown aside from the Winter's Curse. So the Storm Spirit would eventually be able to gain enough momentum to be able to deal with Dagon Club. So there's going to be a fairly perceptive ban coming through from them. They also chose to ban out the Silencer as the second tier ban, just because it does lock out a lot of Dagon Club's options as far as teamfights are concerned. Silencer is one of the best heroes at providing counter-initiation capability. So on the Goonsack, decide to go for Dragon Knight, and Dragon Knight's sort of the other line of play for the Shadow Fiend. It is a hero that you are going to trade farm, since it naturally favors the Shadow Fiend. It's very difficult to lose his matchup as the SF player, just because the Dragon Knight can't threaten kills against the Shadow Fiend without rotations. But Dagon Club now decide to pick up the BloodCyka, so we do see the rotations coming through. They do decide to go for what appears to be an offlane BloodCyka. Visage is going to be played by Bambi, so he will be playing the 4 position role, Yoshi's going to be the mid as the Shadow Fiend, and we do see 3-2-2 as the Clinkz. So BloodCyka in the offlane role is actually going to be a little bit curious. It will be interesting to see how effective it's going to be. It's very dependent on the Goonsack kind of messing up their laning stage as far as creep equilibrium control is concerned. Just because BloodCyka actually can't do anything on his own. You can't afford to send Clinkz as the offlaner, you actually have to guarantee farm on Clinkz. Whereas BloodCyka, worst case scenario, you could just run into the jungle. So that way you have one form of recovery. So going to introduce the players on both teams and line up on the Goonsack. Suvi, sick of playing Crystal Maiden, now going to be playing the 1 as the Slark. Once again, starting with the Magic Stick very early on. A lot of these players love starting with the Magic Stick at 1, generally unless you're playing into a hero like a Zeus, a Batrider, or a Bristleback. Not really that worthwhile, you can always buy it at the side shop. Zap's going to be playing the mid lane Dragon Knight. He's going to be having quite a difficult time. This is a matchup that naturally favors Shadow Fiend. Dragon Knight can't kill the Shadow Fiend unless the Shadow Fiend misplays, whereas the Shadow Fiend can easily kill the Dragon Knight, or at least bully him out of lane just by spamming out the razors. Nice thing of course is Dragon Knight is very difficult to dislodge from a lane, so you're guaranteed to just trade farm. The only issue is the Shadow Fiend will always farm faster than you, and the Dragon Knight's a hero that does taper off just because he doesn't have the same amount of hard carry potential as the Shadow Fiend, or the same amount of flash farming potential. Black Leader, usually the carry player, now going to be playing the offlane Undying. From the look of it, we do see... Actually, we could even be seeing potentially an offlane Earthstriker. We are actually seeing an offlane Earthstriker as Donkey, going to be playing the Earthstriker in the offlane role, and maybe look to potentially special block off the creeps to try to control creep equilibrium that way. Observer Ward's going to be dropped by both sides defensively in this region. Donkey did scout that out. And looks like Black Leader is actually going to be playing the 4 position Undying. Looks like we are actually seeing what appears to be dual lanes. So in that case, I'm assuming Black Leader is just there to make sure they can't threaten the kill against Donkey. Donkey unfortunately has missed the window for him to go for a fissure block. I believe if he goes now in this angle, he can actually block in the creep wave and make sure that he's able to guarantee level 2 if he's on his own. Not going to be the case, and so we actually see dual lanes so far forming through his flash. Most likely going to be just rotating into the jungle. So we see an offlane Visage coming through from the boys in Dagon Club. This is just pure disrespect at this point. Visage is an absolutely horrible offlane hero. Has nothing really going for him just due to the fact that he's very slow, very fragile, and doesn't have a way to actually contest creeps or even find creeps. So Jesus on the Goonsack, just walk up to and start hitting him. Doesn't really have to worry about anything Bambi could do. Bambi can Grave Chill, sure, but you just start hitting him. You're going to do more damage than he is. You've got more regen than he does just because you have the Voodoo Restoration to count on, as well as actually starting with more regen to begin with. And because Visage is highly exposed, there's actually very little they can do. So 3-2 feels, forced to go for Skeleton Walk at 1. Sentry's going to be dropped immediately by Black Leader, and he's got a hell of a lot of decay stacks working. Donkey in the meanwhile going to be sipping on some clarity to the sideline, so he is going to be ceding the lane over to Black Leader to make sure that he gets some last hits. So all things considered, Dagon Club having a little bit of fun. Bambi's still going to be playing the offlane as a Visage, and we do see the jungle BloodCyka. Jungle BloodCyka is very greedy in the sense it's incredibly easy to shut down. You just rotate into the jungle and hit him a couple of times. He is quite easy to kill off that way. Nice thing of course is if it's completely unrestricted, if they're not able to do anything to shut down the BloodCyka in the jungle, it actually is quite effective in that sense. BloodCyka is a very efficient jungling hero, just because you don't have to ever go back to the fountain. You've got everything you need just by starting with a Quelling Blade as well as the Poor Man's Shield, because you have all the sustain coming through from Blood Rage. So this is an incredibly greedy drop coming through from Dagon Club. BloodCyka pick up, not necessarily too sure I agree with this. He does actually throw out the Blood Rage to Yoshi to make sure that White God's able to get a bit of regen. Since Zeps is always going to be forced to rotate out of the lane to secure the rune, just because you can't, if you give a rune control over the Shadow Fiend, you're guaranteed to lose the matchup. The only way you can win this matchup is by you being able to gain rune control or by bottle crawling, just to make sure you're able to at least find last hits through spamming out the Breathe Fire. Yoshi, so far, having a pretty good time. 8 for 1, v 8 for 2 over in Zeps. Zeps is doing a lot better than I expected, all things considered, but that being said, looks like First Blood's actually going to be happening over the bottom lane. But while that happens, is Zeps going to actually choose to commit for a kill against Yoshi? Not going to be the case, and Black Leader able to whack down 3-2 fields. So Dagon Club decided to clown around a bit with their lanes. This actually could give an opening for on the Goonsack to be able to capitalize, especially since they don't have any way to really deal with the Slark outside of the BloodCyka. So the BloodCyka is a great way of counteracting Slark's effectiveness. Bloodthirst, once he drops below 25%, no longer triggers the Shadow Dance even if he is in ult form. So even though you won't be able to see the Slark, it will at least disable the regen. We see the Paralyzing Cast being dropped over on Bambi, as well as the Pounce. Pounce unfortunately just going to be a little bit too shy in Bambi, able to get the hell out of dodge with the Grave Chill. Now that Bambi's been given enough last hits to pick up boots, this is when the Visage actually becomes a decent offlane hero, just because you can Grave Chill and run. So massive misplay coming through from on the Goonsack. Jesus really should have been riding Bambi the entire time, going for the aggressive lane wall, just hit him a couple of times. From level 1, he chose to go for Maledict as opposed to cast. Maledict at 1 actually could have worked out as well, just walk up, hit him, Maledict, and keep hitting him, force him to just leave the lane, and make sure that he's not able to find any form of experience that way. Since the Visage doesn't have a way to find last hits from a distance, you sure as hell don't want to soul assumption the creep, and even if you do, it's not going to do any damage. Zaps in the meanwhile, looks like he's actually going to be forced to bottle cross, so Yoshi will gradually gain the upper hand in this lane. And because they haven't done anything to shut down Flash as well, Dagon Club will eventually win the game if they decide to play passively like this, so the only way for on the Goonsack to have a chance is for them to start holding the initiative and playing very aggressively in 3-2 fields. Goes in for the Skeleton Walk, is caught by the dust as well, so Fisher, he actually could be taking 4. Blackley can just start whacking him down. Zombies slowly following after him. It looks like, unfortunately, doesn't have enough points in the Tombstone for it to be worthwhile. Chose to go for 2 points of Decay instead of 2 points in Tombstone. 2 points in Tombstone would have actually made a bit more of a difference. Could have actually even threatened to kill in 3-2 fields. So going to be a bit unfortunate, they've wasted a lot of resources. Tombstone's considered to be basically your ultimate as far as the dodge is concerned. Just because you don't actually want to go for a Flesh Column at level 6 in this case, you want to go for another point in the Soul Rift. Or the Decay since you chose to go, or another point in the Tombstone since you chose to prioritize the Decay. Generally, you only want to go for more points in Decay if you have Arcane Boots very early on. Otherwise, you just can't afford to sustain the mana cost. And NACL, going to be hiding in the backline. Looks like he's choosing to go for the max Arctic Burn build. Flash, in the meanwhile, being left completely to his own devices, and Yoshi finds himself an easy pick-off in the mid lane against Zeps. So Dagon Club, despite going for very unconventional lanes, they are just able to just basically outplay the boys from on the Goonsack. They haven't really done much to apply pressure, especially since Bambi, if this was a tri-lane to be the Visage, Visage wouldn't have anything. And having a level 1 Visage 5 minutes into the game is going to be quite crippling as far as the boys from Dagon Club are concerned. Black Leader now going to be waiting around in the wings. Doesn't actually have enough mana to threaten a kill. Against 3-2-2 fields, he's basically got 1 Decay or 1 Tombstone, and no follow-up with either. Especially since Donkey's going to be out of mana, and NACL can actually threaten a kill, especially if a 3-2-2 field walks and just throws in a couple of right clicks. Black Leader just turns around for the Decay, and that's going to be it. It's a great play coming through from NACL. Drives both the heroes out of the lane. And with this, it does give a lot of momentum over the 3-2-2 through. So a 3-2-2 this game will be interesting to see what item he chooses to prioritize. I think the Desolator would be the best pickup after going for something like a Soul Ring to make sure that you basically Dark Pack for free. Soul Ring is one of the best pickups for the Clinkz in the early stage of the game. It gives you the ability to always have your ult up. Zap's going to eat a couple of raises to the face coming through from Yoshi, and Yoshi will be interesting to see if he decides to go for the Yules build. I believe he's a very big fan of going for Yules into the Blink Dagger, so we could be seeing that as the item pickup coming through from him. But in the top lane, Suvi, as far as his last hits and Knight's concerned, he's actually having a terrible start. Actually a little bit surprised, especially since Bambi isn't able to really do much to apply pressure to him early on, because Jesus was a little bit passive in the early stages of the game. He's now biting Suvi in the ass. It's very difficult for Suvi to find the last hits that he needs, and Slark is a hero that actually relies on getting a very early, either a Blink Dagger or a Shadow Blade. He's not necessarily a carry hero in the conventional sense, very similar to Clinkz. He's all about the item timing. You want to make sure that you get your Blink Dagger or your Shadow Blade as quickly as possible, use it to find a couple of pickoffs and snowball from there. In this case, because he's playing from behind and he won't be finding an early Blink or a Shadow Blade, he's going to be forced to go for something like a Drums, and while it happens, Jesus is actually going to die to the Familiars if he's not too careful. With this, Flash gets a huge amount of free damage to be able to jungle even more efficiently. Flash actually choosing to go for Phase Boots instead of the Treads. Generally, you see Treads picked up on BloodCyka, especially if you're jungling. That being said, the Phase Boots considered to be a little bit unnecessary by some people just because you have so much mobility from Thirst, but more mobility never is a bad thing. Donkey now wrapping around from the side. He is going to be scouted out by the defensive observer ward being placed by boys from Dagon Club and NACL. Going to break Clarity, going for a couple of right clicks, forces out the Fissure. And we do see 3-2-2 fields also coming up from the side. Donkey could actually be taking a fall. Here comes the Tombstone. Splinter's going to bounce off Black Leader, and Black Leader might actually be able to find himself a kill against NACL. Goes in for the Decay. One more right click should be enough to find a kill. Flash now running in, does have the Rupture, so with that, Black Leader will be taking a fall. So Flash able to finally accomplish something as the jungle hero. Because he's been left completely alone, this is going to be a massive advantage to the Dagon Club's favor. They've basically just picked up another core hero. They've got a 5-core lineup, all things considered, especially since Wyvern scales quite nicely into the late game. Bambi, once again, haven't been under pressure, and very similar to dealing with a hero like a Centaur Warrunner or a Phoenix, you have to apply as much pressure at level 1 as possible, because otherwise if you give them a lot of free experience, they will eventually beat you, they will eventually find an opening to go for kills, and so if you plan to support in the situation, especially if it's an unconventional or a very weak offlane hero, just keep killing them, kill them and keep killing them, control the creep equilibrium, don't give them an opening to find any kind of experience, because they don't have any way to influence the creep wave. Earthshaker at least can fissure off the creep wave to control it, to force it to be with underneath his tower, so that way he's guaranteed to at least find experience. Visage has absolutely nothing. He could maybe walk up and hit a creep and then die because he eats a paralyzing cast to the face, and you walk up and pounce him. Looks like we are going to be seeing some action over by the top rune of Zaps. He's going to get right clicked down by Flash. Flash should be able to find this kill easily. Yoshi now finds himself in Invis rune, and with the Ring of Basili's pickup, he's chose to go for the Ring of Aquila. It will be interesting to see if he does go for the Yule Scepter this game. Definitely would be a good game for it, all things considered, especially because it gives you a guaranteed way to burst down the Dragon Knight to start of the fight. Black Leader chose to actually max out the Decay. I very heavily disagree with this. Decay at this point, just because you don't have the mana pool to afford it, the cooldown reduction and this marginal increase in damage isn't really worth it, just because you're going to run out of mana before you can actually get any kind of benefit from the decreased cooldown. Whereas the Tombstone is one of the most overpowered abilities in the early stage of the game. Every time you drop a Tombstone in the first 20 minutes, you force the enemy team to just run. There's actually very little they could do, unless if they're able to prioritize firing, knocking down the Tombstone as 5. And even then, you're generally able to capitalize that way. The Visage Familiars are there to potentially defend against that Donkey as well as Subi. Subi, fortunately not going to be able to land the pounce, and with this, Bambi can actually stand his ground. Dark Pack's not getting popped out with Visage Familiar drop. He'll land over in Subi, and Subi, no more Shadow Dance. Does have to Dark Pack, but he's too low, and Flash is just going to run him down. Flash throws out the Rupture over on Donkey, it looks like. Goes in for the right click over on Subi. Subi has no more Shadow Dance regen. Flash finds himself an easy pick off. Looks like he actually cancelled an auto attack there, but he should be okay. While that happens, Bambi able to find himself an easy kill against Donkey. So Dagon Club kind of just rubbing in on the Goonsack's faces, saying, hey, we could win even with these really weird lineups, even by going for highly unconventional offlane heroes, and by playing incredibly greedy, just because we know that we're not going to get punished. So it's basically a power statement play coming through from the boys in Dagon Club. NACL looks like he actually chose to go for a split build, choosing to go for the second point in Splinter Blast. You generally choose to max one or the other. There's no real advantage to diversifying your build as the Wyvern, just because the nice thing about having the 4 points in the Arctic Bone, you'll always have it up for a fight, and with 1000 range it makes it a lot easier to position yourself in a team fight. Much more difficult to misplay that way. Whereas maxing out the Splinter Blast, it does give you a huge amount of flash bomb potential, and it gives you great defensive capability and being able to delay pushes. So Bambi, most likely going to be picking up the Medallion of Courage as his first item. It gives him a huge amount of killing power, especially if he Grave Shields any of the heroes on the line on the Goonsack. He could just whack him down, especially since you give yourself double the attack speed boost coming through from Grave Shield that you steal from them, and the Visage Familiars do a hell of a lot of damage, especially because you're getting 3 attacks in a second. So one of the reasons why the Drow Ranger Visage Familiar synergy is so ridiculous is the aura. With 3 attacks a second coming through from the Familiars, the only thing that keeps the Familiars balanced is the fact that they have attack charges, and once they run out of charges, they lose all their damage. But with the Visage Familiars, the Tombstone's actually taking a huge amount of damage, and so the Tombstone's been pretty much neutralized this game, due to the fact that you've got Shadow Fiend, who does a huge amount of right-click damage, you've got the Clinkz, and now you have the Visage Familiar builds. The Familiar builds will be the Tombstone, and with this, Dagon Club, immediately able to capitalize. Great play coming through from them. NACL goes in for a huge one, this Curse catching over in 2. Black Leader going to take the fall before he's able to do much. Here comes a Rupture over in Zaps. Zaps now caught in the Blood Right, and with this, should be taking a fall. Jesus on the Goonsack. He kept alive for a little while, but Yoshi finishes him off with the Requiem. And Suvi, only man standing, unfortunately, the Slark can't do anything. Forced to Shadow Dance in plain sight of Flash. That's how desperate the situation's gone in Flash. Should be able to run him down at this point. He does have pounce coming online in a few more seconds, and with this, they decide to back away. So Flash, choosing to go for the S and Y. Hasn't been contested in the jungle, hasn't really been punished. And so DC with the BloodCyka 5th pick. BloodCyka works simply as a way to counteract and neutralize the effectiveness of Slark, especially since you also have Clinkz that help neutralize the Tombstone. So as far as the picks and bans concerned from Dagon Club, they're specifically designed to counteract the first 4 picks coming through from on the Goonsack. And with this, Dagon Club put themselves in a significant advantage. The only, I guess, curveball is going to be the Visage. The Visage really shouldn't have accomplished anything in the offlane. So it really was the lack of factors, the lack of pressure being applied by Jesus, as well as the fact that they decided to go for dual lanes. They actually should have just decided to sacrifice and go for the solo offlane and have Donkey just be there, but because they picked up the Undying, as well as the Earthshaker, they're sort of forced to have one be the offlane hero. You can't really afford to have a duo support, or this support Undying apply pressure. So Suvi, now over in the middle lane, going to be forced to, the best build for him in this case, because he's playing from behind, is just go for Tread's Drum into the S and Y. You've missed your window of opportunity for the Shadow Blade, you need it by the 15-minute mark. Ideally, you could get it by the 11-minute mark, Shadow Blade or the Blink. Also missed your item timing for the Midas as well. And so at this point, you're basically just forced to go for items that help you fight and go for pickoffs that way. So Drums into S and Y, very cost-effective, very stat-efficient items that do at least enable you to capitalize in 3-2-2 feels. Could just choose to dive Donkey if he really wants to. Donkey doesn't have any mana to do anything apart from the Enchant Totem plane. 3-2-2 feels, goes in for it, says, alright, screw it, sick of messing around. Arctic Burn's also there from NACL. Waits to ensure that NACL is at least able to get a couple of right clicks in, just in case if he needs it for the snare. So 3-2-2 feels. Looks like he is starting to go for the Desolator. He will be able to finish it in the next 5 minutes at the rate that he's farming. And because you've got the fact that the Searing Arrow does damage to towers as well, Flash, he's going to dive underneath the tower, but looks like he's going to throw out the Blood Right to cancel the TP coming through from Subi. So Flash has been completely uncontested this game, so he's going to be having the time of his life, especially since his sole job was to shut down and disable the Shadow Dance regen coming through from on the Goonsack. Cold pressing a creep from NACL with a player just to make sure that he's able to get a little bit more damage in the tower. You could also use the Medallion of Courage on creeps for that exact same purpose, forces the tower to expend another right click to deal with them, in which case it, as a result, increases your pushing capability. So 3-2-2 feels. Once he gets the Desolator, he can pretty much 3-shot the Witch Doctor, 4-shot the Black Leader, or kill his Tombstone very quickly, and actually go blow for blow against Slark, especially because you don't have the Shadow Dance regen to count on this game. Donkey on the Goonsack, going to be hiding over in the top lane, but he is going to get scouted up by the Visage Familiars. So it looks like the boys on the Goonsack are gearing up to try to defend this. There is a defensive observer ward already being placed, and Flash goes in for the Rupture play over on Jesus. No real follow-up, so just decides to casually throw out the Blood Right in the other direction. Not really too sure what he was thinking. Could have at least chosen to commit with the Blood Right on the Ruptured target, guaranteeing you the Blood Right silence at least. But decides to just kind of airball it there. But while that's happening, space is being created. 3-2-2 feels in NACL. Both of them should be able to take this tier 2 tower. NACL can actually just choose to Cold Embrace himself. Decides to Cold Embrace the creep after switching aggro. Did actually choose to go for the Soul Ring in lieu of the Arcane Boots, realizing that he's not going to have enough gold to finish the Arcane Boots in a reasonable time. Might as well go for the incremental build-up of the Soul Ring. Yoshi actually it's decided to just go for the S and Y. So decided not to mess around with any kind of mech plays. I guess the Visage can ideally pick up the mech for you, and Bambi decided to just go for full greed. Goes for the Aghanim Scepter. Generally you want to go for the Medallion before the Ags, just because the Medallion helps you farm, helps you fight. And because it drastically increases your farming speed, you're able to farm your Ag at around the same rate as opposed to just going for the naked Ag. Looks like Zep's going to be caught out of position, caught by the Grape Chill. He does have the Blush Right as well as the Dragon Tail at the ready, but the Visage finally drops going to land over on him. Rupture now going to be forced out when he's about half HP, so Flash with the guaranteed this kill. Soul Assumption is going to be enough to finish him off, and Yoshi goes into the Requiem play. Requiem's actually just going to clip Suvi. Suvi gets cleaned up by the Soul Rip as well, and Donkey wants to go for the Echo Slam, throws it out, not really going to do much, he gets raised down. So Yoshi shows up in the nick of time to be able to finish people off. Looks like he's now got the S and Y completed, especially with his tower being taken down. And Dagon Club once again, putting himself in a dominating advantage. But unfortunately, unlike game number one actually was a pure case of outdraft. Game 2 was more on the Goonsack not being able to capitalize off the weaknesses that Dagon Club's draft revealed. 3-2-2 feels, looks like he's got his Desolator flying out towards him, so we're 5 minutes after the 10-minute mark, so he's got it spot on. Should be able to find that tier 2 tower for 3. And he can actually even threaten to kill against Jesus on the Goonsack, so Jesus is very exposed. Jesus actually choosing to go for a split build. In this case, there's no point in going for Maledict. Maledict's only going to get you killed. You might as well just sack it and just go for points of stats. 1 to max out the Paralyzing Cast, 1 point of Voodoo Restoration for the mana efficiency, and then just go for points of stats. Unfortunately, he went for the Maledict at 1. Maledict's an all or nothing ability. You either max it or you don't go for it at all. There's no real point in going for any kind of half-ground attempt just because it doesn't actually give you any benefit, especially because you don't have that much damage coming through early on. Generally, you only want to go for Maledict if you've got heroes such as the Juggernaut that give you a huge amount of guaranteed damage at the early stage of the game that aren't really dependent on items. So level 1 Maledict with a level 1 Blade Theory actually does a hell of a lot of damage just because you're removing 400 points of HP early on from the spin alone. And Suvi has the magic stick to work with. Looks like he's decided to pick up an Ogre Club, so maybe he could think about going for the Sanj into the S and Y. BKB is actually going to be a huge mistake coming through from Slark this early on, just because you still have no actual damage coming through. 3-2-2 feels, interrupts the smoke, and now looks to go for the turnaround play. Unfortunately, he's going to throw his own life away. Goes in against the entire lineup of on the Goonsack. So they find himself a free kill. Winter's Curse into Splinter Blast. NACL gets a great 3-man Winter's Curse. Throws down the Tombstone coming through from Black Leader. And Yoshi and NACL decide to wisely back away. No point in sticking around fighting into the Tombstone, especially because you've lost one of your best heroes at killing the Tombstone. And Dagon Club looks like they've got 2 S and Ys picked up so far. So we're going to be seeing some Southeast Asia gaming coming through from them. Suvi actually has a Dust casually picked up, going to eat the Rupture to the face. Actually pounces into the Rupture, pops the Shadow Dance. Suvi's at least got that to work with, and decides to TP out under the cover of the Shadow Dance. Here comes Zep's going with the turnaround play over on Yoshi. Yoshi going to be called out by the Maledict as well as the Dragon Tail, but here comes the covering fire with the Blood Right. Blood Right going to land Odio over on Jesus, and Jesus is now out of mana. Forces to step on some clarity so he can do something with this engagement. Black Leader standing his ground, and Yoshi casually Requieming from the side. Not really too sure who he's trying to hit with these Requiems. Definitely wasn't going to do anything in that engagement. At least, I guess he clipped Black Leader, but Black Leader was already dead to Flash, so Flash finds himself an easy double kill. And with this, the tier 2 tower should be taking a fall. There's no Blink Dagger on Donkey, so he can't go for a huge Echo Slam play even if he wanted to, especially since Flash can just casually throw out Blood Right to zone people out. 3-2-2 feels, should be the 2-shot Jesus on the Goonsack. Jesus, keeping himself alive for now, but one more rifle coming through from 3-2-2 feels, especially with the Visage melee drop. And Suvi, winner for a Pounce play, unfortunately doesn't have the Shadow Dance to work with, pounces off to the side, and Flash says, oh hey, free food. Goes in for the last hit, and looks like 3-2-2 feels going to found it. Aghanim Scepter now picked up from Bambi, so he's got the triple familiar play to work with. Tier 2 tower now takes a fall. They could look to rotate and knock down the tier 2 tower in the bottom lane, but looks like they're just picking the high ground, so they're showing no respect towards on the Goonsack. Not going for the safe play, say, alright, we're so far ahead at this point, we might as well just breach high ground. If you have a look at the net worth graph, all 4 heroes on the lineup of our Dagon club, excepting NACL. Once again, you have the issue of Zeps being the only one on this team with any form of farm. So a little bit unfortunate. This is more due to the fact that they play incredibly passively. They did have a lot of options to punish the greed coming through from our Dagon club, especially the Visage in the off lane. Bambi should have actually received a hell of a lot of deaths in that lane, or at least he should have not received a lot of the free reign of experience and gold. Especially if they did have the Shaker there. Easy setup for kills. Just have to Slark deny the creep wave to control creep equilibrium. And maybe have a support hero pull as well, just to make sure that the creep wave is always going to be around here. In which case the Visage is going to be exposed. You've got gank pathways coming through from that side. So he doesn't want to be sticking around in that angle. But now they sort of missed their opportunity to capitalize, and as a result, Dagon club, they went for Ultra Greed, the greed paid off. And Yoshi now decided to go for the BKB to finish things off. He even stacks a camp as he's clearing it in the enemy jungle to increase his farm efficiency. It's a nice little micro play coming through from him. 3-2-2 feels. Looks like he's actually choosing to go for the BKB as his next big item. Looks like the Glimmer Cake will be coming online fairly soon for NACL, especially with the huge amount of gold he's been picking up this game due to his high teamfight engagement and lack of deaths. Bambi really should be looking to go for the Solar Crest now, since he chose to go for the Ag himself first. Generally, you do want to go for the Medallion to help you farm faster, then want to go for the Ag. But in this case, the other way around also works. I guess if you're able to find it, it's generally a bit more efficient to go for the Medallion first, just because you can't bank on the opposing team letting you farm 4,200 gold without any kind of congestion. And the Medallion drastically increases your farm speed, as well as your kill power. Zaps, as far as his item progression is concerned, once again choosing to go for the Sange. He really seems to like going for the Sange as his first big item. Not really going to be the best item pickup for him this game. He really needed to go for the Rush BKB if he wanted to have any chance of actually being the standards ground in these team fights. Subi going to be forced to pick up a Drums of Endurance if he wants to have any kind of staying power as well. Unfortunately, they're so underfarmed at this point, it is going to be very difficult. Flash is almost 3 times the amount of net worth as Subi, and Flash spent the entire game in the jungle, just whacking creeps without anyone there to stop him. So we do see the Aegis now that we picked up over on, I believe it was Yoshi, so Yoshi should just be able to barrel down the mid lane. Looks like he's got the almost completed BKB flying out towards him. Flash, it's a casual fissure. Looks like Flash is going to look to go for a butterfly. Also could be the one carrying the Solar Crest for his team. BloodCyka is actually quite a powerful Solar Crest carrier if you're not going to be a primary core. So if you are playing him in that jungling role, BloodCyka can actually pick up the utility item for your team. Just because the Solar Crest actually drastically increases your damage output as well. So Zeps with the Naked Sange, we'll see what he's able to do. The Fissure Block comes through from Donkey, and looks like Yoshi's going to eat a couple of right clicks coming through from the tower, as well as the Decay play coming through from Black Leader. Black Leader doesn't have a single point in the Soul Rip. Decay is an ability you max if you're very far ahead and you have an Arcane Boots very early on. Otherwise, Soul Rip is one of the most overpowered abilities in the game, especially with the rework, or the buffs, the rebalancing of the numbers. It used to be you needed 20 units for a level 4 Soul Rip to be worthwhile. Now I believe it's only 12. Well, it looks like 16. It does give you a drastic increase in the power level for Soul Rip at every point in the game. Rupture going to be used over in Zeps, and Zeps going to be forced to just sit there while they decide to knock down the tower. Winter's Curse into the Blood Right. Great play coming through from NACL. His Winter Wyvern play has been very impressive this game. Is able to catch up to heroes, and with this, Federax going to be taking it forward. Might be expecting Dagon Club to GG out at this point. There's no real way for them to recover, unfortunately. They sort of lost their window of opportunity to capitalize. Yoshi going to be caught out by House. He does have the Aegis though, so he's not really too fast. Elder Dragon Form going to be popped by Zeps, and like I say, Bambi going to eat a huge amount of damage. Here comes the Echo Slam play, but unfortunately he had the full stack of Great Keeper's Cloak, so he's going to be okay. Turned around the Soul Assumption, and Zeps going to be taking a fall. Even resummons Families to go for the quadruple, the sextuple? Septuple? Septuple does that Familiar stun, so Bambi showing off his moves as the Visage, and GG is going to be called, so it looks like we're going to be seeing a quick 2-0 knockout on the Goonsack. A little bit, unfortunately, their drop showed a little bit of a lot of promise. Unfortunately, just weren't really able to execute it effectively against Dagon Club. Dagon Club had a lot of glaring flaws in their draft, particularly the BloodCyka fifth pick in the jungle, which really messed up their laning stage, as well as the Visage as the offlaner. So a lot of teams could actually use to punish the misplays coming through from Dagon Club's draft. But I guess in this game they decided to have a little bit of fun with it. So Bambi, once again, able to pull out a dominating performance over as the offlane Visage. No deaths on a hero. One of the slowest heroes in the game with 0 armor at level 1. So really just boiled down to the lack of aggression coming through from on the Goonsack. And NACL actually going to be the MVP of this series. Able to do a huge amount of work as a winner. Wyvern able to catch out, I believe it was 3 or 4 multiple hero Winter Curses. Able to follow through with the Splinter Blast as well. So it looks like that should be it. We do have the boys from NACL playing against somebody. I think they might be playing against Hanster Stucks Deluxe at 8:30, so that should be starting fairly soon. And of course you have Do You Even playing against Envy at 9. So unfortunately won't be able to cast those games, but you will be able to watch them in client. So stay tuned for more Dota, and as always, you can follow me